Hey Hail Stalkers, thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox and we are tracking storms across the Gulf Coast all the way up to our New England states right now. We have our severe weather outbreak from yesterday. To recap, we had 60 tornado warnings, over 100 severe thunderstorm warnings, 8 reported tornadoes, and at least one of those tornadoes were strong. EF2 were stronger, but most likely EF3. Now, these weekend storms, back to the plains. Okay, we restart our cycle of storms starting the plains, moving off to the Midwest and then to the Northeast. We are back to the plains near Colorado, including places like Denver, and then even as far east as Kansas City. We are also watching Tropical Storm Arthur, which is bringing tornado hazards to the Gulf Coast right now. You can see all of that highlighted there in pink, but we'll have more on that here in just a few minutes. Let's talk about the ongoing showers and storms across New York. At the moment, what we're seeing are some severe thunderstorm warnings, some very, very strong wind out of this. Not too worried about the hail, but it's going to be more of a wind event. Now, as we go across Oklahoma and the southern portion of Kansas, we have another severe thunderstorm warning. This is where you're going to get your hail today. We had $half size hail reported just across I-35 earlier this morning. We'll have ongoing storms later on this afternoon. And severe storms across the Gulf Coast, all of those brought to you by Tropical Storm Arthur. That is more coming up later in the forecast. So we'll talk about that tropical storm. Give us just a few minutes here. Let's talk about last night first. Actually, let's go all the way back to yesterday morning. So over 24 hours ago, we had a system come through the Midwest. From Iowa to Illinois, we had some strong winds across Illinois. That was round number 1. Then we turned our attention up to Minnesota and Iowa for round number 2, where we had one just isolated storm that came across. It was a tornado-warned storm for quite some time, over 50 miles. The storm was warned for a tornado all the way into Wisconsin. Look at this long line of storms. This is what we mentioned yesterday that could hit Kansas City, could hit Chicago. They just formed a little too late. The storm system was moving a little too fast past both of our big cities there, but was very, very impressive across the central portion of Illinois, Indiana, and Missouri for a short period of time. Missouri, your storm risks didn't last too long. It was really all across Illinois and Indiana. We had 1, 2, 3 areas that it seemed like got hit over and over and over, including places like Decatur, Illinois. Some very, very large hail, some strong wind speeds, and even a tornado reported just outside of Decatur. This is really where the tornado activity happened yesterday. So we had 8 tornadoes reported. Large hail, larger than the size of a baseball yesterday. Very, very impressive storm system. Now this strong storm system has been shifting off to the east. It's really more of a wind event today, but we could see some hail just barely mixing in there. Very, very isolated hail risks. This morning, I mentioned it earlier, we did see a $half size hail report just across the state line into Oklahoma. Now, as you head down to the south across the Gulf Coast, we have ongoing tornado concerns. And again, we'll talk more about that in here in just a few minutes. This is your storm risk for today. We've got a level 2 highlighted there in yellow, mainly for a wind or tornado threat. And then we've got that hail threat highlighted there in green across Oklahoma and Texas. Now, tomorrow we have Dallas included in the storm risk, mainly across the Gulf Coast, and Minnesota also included in that storm risk. I think the most impressive hail risk that we have on the forecast right now is going to be across the plains on Saturday. So if you're looking for maybe a Father's Day present, would you like some hail? Denver, you are just barely in the risk here. I-25 into the east, that is where we're watching for storms on Saturday. And then basically Kansas City into the west. In between those 2 cities, that's where we're watching for storms. We'll see if this thing can pivot to the west by about 20 miles. Denver, you could see storms on Saturday afternoon. And we'll talk about a timeline here in just a few minutes. Your wind forecast again for today. Here's a look at what we're expecting. More of a wind and tornado threat all the way up from the Gulf to the East Coast. You could see some strong wind in Oklahoma, but that's really where you're going to see your hail threat. Again, a tornado threat, a level 3 from Mobile all the way up to the southern portion of Alabama, a level 2 tornado threat into Charlotte, North Carolina. And Burlington and Albany also in that level 2 tornado threat as well. So that would be New York all the way up to our New England states. Hail threat for today, Oklahoma, Texas included in that. I'm not too worried about the hail sizes today. I think they're going to stay pretty small. We're talking about $half size hail possible here, maybe up to golf ball if you're lucky. Storms are going to continue through the afternoon hours, mainly staying in northern Oklahoma. As we head into the late afternoon, we're going to see those storms expand down into the southern portion of Oklahoma and finally into Texas, where it's just really going to be an isolated threat through the evening hours right along the Red River. These storms could come into Dallas by early tomorrow morning, so we do have a risk for Dallas tomorrow. Again, I'm not too worried about the hail threat, more likely a wind threat tomorrow morning, but watch your morning commute. Keep an eye on that. Golf ball size hail, that's your maximum hail size for today. We're not going baseballs. Baseballs, that was for yesterday and maybe for Saturday. Not worried about baseball size hail today. Your hail forecast here, again, low threat across Oklahoma. We've got a low threat across North Carolina and Virginia as well. And then there's your threat across Oklahoma. I honestly think it's going to be so isolated through places like Oklahoma City and Wichita Falls. I think that it's a high likelihood that we barely even get any rain over here, let alone hail. So don't look at this and say, oh, it's going to be a hail day in Oklahoma City. We actually just had the front pass through Oklahoma City, so a little bit of rain is absolutely likely through some of these areas, but not everyone getting rain. More rain across the northern portion of Texas, just south of the Red River. That lasts all the way into tomorrow morning. It could be a rainy commute for a lot of people in Oklahoma City and in Dallas tomorrow. San Angelo, you guys are getting a little bit of rain as well. It's only a marginal risk for both today and tomorrow, more likely a wind risk for tomorrow. And then we've got ongoing showers and storms across the Gulf Coast as well, all of that thanks to Tropical Storm Arthur, the first of the year. We've got storms ongoing across our New England states as well. That's going to pose a wind and a tornado threat, isolated severe storms, not everyone getting a severe storm down there. And then very similar, where it's mainly a wind threat across Virginia and North and South Carolina at the bottom of your screen. Moving on here, we are basically in a zonal flow. So what you see right now is probably what we're going to get over the next few days. Basically what we see is these little smaller surface-based patterns start to pop up. We're not expecting a widespread low pressure system to bring us this big strong storm like what we saw yesterday. We're actually kind of starting to set into a ridge. It's weaker than what we originally expected. What does that mean for you? It means that cooler temperatures are likely than what we originally expected, and more storms. So since this ridge is weaker, what you're going to see are these little things called short waves. You can kind of see that this is not a straight line all the way across. We've got some areas in here where you could get a little storm or two. It's going to be very, very difficult to forecast exactly where we're expecting storms. That may be more of a day-to-day thing, but you'll start to see these little short waves pop up, and that's whenever we know that we could see a storm system come through, just like on Saturday across the plains. Very, very zonal. Look at this. Anytime you see these lines parallel to our state lines, just like this, that's whenever we get into zonal flow. But we'll continue to talk about storms over the weekend. Thomas says, watching from New Mexico. You guys are pretty warm in New Mexico, right? A little bit of a cool down today and then warmer for the weekend. Here's a look at your wind forecast for Friday. So again, we've got Dallas with some early morning storms on Friday. We're going to continue to see rain across the Gulf Coast thanks to this tropical storm that's moving in. And we've got one area across Minnesota and Wisconsin that'll see some strong wind as well. Minneapolis all the way to La Crosse. A little bit of hail is possible up here as well, but I'm not too terribly impressed with the hail sizes here. Now let's talk about Saturday. Let's move in to this weekend. Max forecasted hail size for Friday. Again, not too impressed with it. Golf ball and egg sized hail possible. Tornado risk for tomorrow moves off to North Carolina. And your hail forecast, are we going over to Saturday? Okay, we're finally talking about Saturday. Let's get into it. Now take a look at exactly where this risk cuts off. Just barely to the east of Denver. But these storms sometimes could surprise you. And if these storms form just 20 miles to the west, just across I-25, they're going to go up very, very quickly, and Denver could be in the risk. So I went ahead and put Denver in the risk here. I think that you guys have a low risk. It's very conditional to where these storms form, okay? If they go to the east of I-25, then no storms for Denver. If they go to the west of I-25, then we could absolutely see storms in Denver. Large hail likely on Saturday. I think the most likely area will be in eastern Colorado to western Kansas and Nebraska. There's a little area in here that I think will see the most storms. And I think I actually have that forecast. Let's talk about timeline. Your wind forecast here, McCook to Garden City, tornado forecast level 1, also on the board. Florida. Okay, we're going to get into Florida here in just a minute. Martin's going to talk about Tropical Storm Arthur. I want to get through 2 more graphics because I want to talk about Saturday, and then we're going to talk about Tropical Storm Arthur. Okay, here's your timeline for Saturday. So we can see that we've got some pretty decent hail signatures moving in. Okay, every now and then we're going to get some of those oranges in here, mainly in the eastern side of Colorado, western side of Nebraska and Kansas. But let's overlay our future radar. So let's put some rain on the board here, and let's see if those places that are highlighted there in orange can match up with where the storms are. Again, storms form just right along I-25, mainly in eastern Colorado. I think we're going to see these storms explode, but how long will they last? Are they going to stick around all the way into the western side of Kansas and Nebraska? I think that's absolutely possible, but it really just depends on what happens later on in the evening to see if we can get anything in Kansas City. Kansas City is kind of our wild card. I don't know if storms are going to make it all the way over here. But again, eastern Colorado, western Nebraska, and Kansas is your best chance for storms on Saturday. Until then, we're out on the East Coast, up in the northern plains, and then down across the Gulf Coast. And speaking of the Gulf Coast, I want to bring in meteorologist Martin Larimore to break down all of the hazards, including tornadoes and floods, that we have ongoing with Arthur right now.
Tropical Storm Arthur, the first system of this year, has been already giving us a bit of a shakeup for what we usually expect for the first system, and actually it formed on land, which is a bit of a weird one now. It did eventually make its way into the Gulf and now is sitting itself right over Louisiana. So one of the big notes that we've been watching for Arthur, at least the past 12 to 24 hours, is he's been making a lot of tornado activity. Now, the reason why is we usually see much more favorable tornado formation. This is your center of the low pressure of the remnants of Arthur. It's not really a tropical storm anymore, but we're still going to call him Arthur for right now. But the low pressure right here, your north and your eastern quadrant. So this 1/4 of the tropical system where a lot of these storms are currently occurring, that is your most favorable area for tornado formation. Now, why is that? Well, to kind of really condense a lot of scientific stuff down, the shear is best in this quarter of the storm, and we also see the most of those tornadoes right when these tropical systems make landfall, or as they're making landfall, or just a little bit before. But you know, we've been seeing these storms for quite a bit, and we got a little bit of those tornadoes earlier today. We actually believe we did have a reported tornado not too long ago, but as you can see, they've got that area, that 1/4 over in Alabama, parts of Florida, Mississippi, and one parish in Louisiana, all under that tornado watch as of right now. This goes for the next few hours, I believe. Also, I'll talk about this in a second. Look at all these green right here. That is all these flash flood warnings, including several that are called catastrophically tagged. We'll talk about that one in just a second. There's been areas that have seen an immense amount of rainfall, like an unholy amount of rainfall over the past 24 hours. So here's your 24-hour storm reports. Again, we have been seeing this as it made its way over, several of these tornado warnings over across New Orleans, seeing a lot of these storms moving their way across. Again, just more of these tornado warnings, more and more of them as they move their way in. This is 8 a.m. this morning right here, continuing on as we head throughout the rest of that morning. Large severe thunderstorm warning, several more warnings as well. There's that confirmed tornado right there in parts of Alabama. I also do want to note right here, right around your the boot of Louisiana, there's been a cell that has just hung out right here over, I think it was, oh man, I forgot what the town was. It is, I think it's like a Sleeport, I think is what it was, not Shreveport. But this town right here has had over a foot of rain so far, and it's not looking like it's going anywhere anytime soon. This is the most up-to-date radar right here, and that cell is still over it, bringing very heavy amounts of rainfall. So this is your live radar right here. Again, seeing the tornado watch is still active, heavy rainfall, a lot of severe thunderstorms that we've been seeing with Arthur so far. The winds have calmed down a little bit thanks to that, and I'm going to show you this closely. Again, right here, this right here, Marksville, Morganza, Bunkie, these areas have seen so much rainfall just because of this cell. We were talking actually about this specific area right here, just south of Alexandria, that we're thinking that could get some of the heaviest rainfall yesterday, and here we are with over a foot of rain. They have had already many reports of water rescues, entire roads, businesses have been flooded, so a lot of these areas have been heavily impacted over the past 24 hours. Here's your 24-hour rainfall. This is pretty much maxing it out. Look at this. It's bright yellow right here. This is areas that have seen over 6 inches of rain, including that little spot just south of Alexandria that's seen, again, a lot of rainfall. So tornadoes, as we've been seeing a lot of these warnings and confirmed warnings, we're going to continue to see this building over the next several hours, because as the ground gets warmer, we start seeing the heating of the day. It could start re-triggering a handful of those tornado warnings. So we are going to be expecting those tornadoes to continue out toward Alabama. That's why they have that enhanced risk, not the enhanced risk, a level 3 tornado risk for today across parts of Alabama, including Mobile, as that low pressure, that quadrant, that hotspot quadrant for Arthur is going to be moving in toward Alabama. So it's going to be a very interesting day for tropics for sure. But that flood outlook, they finally giving it 4 out of 4, the highest risk for that flash flooding. I mean, it's ongoing, widespread, like you saw earlier. We have several of those warnings for flash flooding already, and that's only going to stretch as we go into tomorrow. It's not going really anywhere. We were talking about this yesterday. Arthur is moving so incredibly slow. He was moving 9 miles an hour before when he was a tropical storm. Now it feels like he's going even slower. I mean, we're literally moving a half a state a day as we get into tomorrow, and as we get into our Friday and Saturday, we're still seeing the level 2 out of 4 across Mississippi and Alabama. So the flooding just isn't going anywhere. Flash flooding is going to be remaining an issue across the Gulf states for the next several days. It's not really until we get into our Sunday where that threat starts to move a little bit northward, where we start seeing that with this next system that we're expecting to bring in some of that hail and wind, and maybe even another tornado threat coming in for your Father's Day weekend. But Taylor's going to talk more all about that and wrap up what we've been talking about for the past couple of days. Coming back in just a second.
Yeah, thank you, Martin. I appreciate that. And I mean, really a big threat to these areas that have just had ongoing flooding just over and over and over. Thankfully, they will get some relief as we head into the weekend, and our shift focuses from the Gulf Coast all the way to the plains. Again, you can see that severe weather risk for today across the East and Gulf Coast, and then across Oklahoma and Texas, where we're going to see more of a hail risk than anything in Oklahoma and Texas. Ongoing severe weather is expected across the Gulf Coast again tomorrow. We've got another area up in Minnesota. And then the big story this weekend will be storms across the plains on Saturday. This is mainly a hail and tornado risk, although we can't rule out some strong wind as the system really gets going into the overnight hours. Kind of depends on how long it lasts through the central portion of Nebraska and Kansas. So that's your next system to watch out for after Arthur moves on to land, or more into land today. Let's take a look at temperatures. We are experiencing a big cool down across Oklahoma. Kansas City, St. Louis, Chicago, everyone feeling those cooler temperatures today. And by cooler, I mean what? 70s and 80s, but still it feels a lot cooler than what we saw just a few days ago whenever temperatures got into the 90s and triple digits. We're going to keep these cooler temperatures around for just another day or two, and then after that we warm right back up. It does look like we'll see at least a little bit of a rebound for temperatures this weekend. Overall, not a bad weekend to get outside and enjoy Father's Day. Temperatures on Saturday, 88 in Oklahoma City, 91 in Kansas City, 93 in Denver. Again, that heat helping to fuel storms in this area. After that storm system passes on Saturday and into Sunday, it looks like temperatures drop just a little bit, a few degrees, but we'll take it. And then 75 in Kansas City on Monday. Pretty nice there. 76 in St. Louis, 84 in Denver. So not too above or below average for this time of the year. And that really stays very consistent through the end of the month If you go out to the west, you're going to get those warm temperatures, warmer than average. Across the Midwest, either about average or just slightly below average. And your rainfall stays above normal for this time of the year as we head into the end of the month as well. We definitely need that to combat the drought and those fire dangers as we get into some of the drier months. Thanks for joining us today. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, and we will see you guys in this time tomorrow at noon. But before that, make sure you follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok, or give us a call at 855-334-4245 for more information on hail, wind, or tornado maps. You can also email us at info@hailtrace.com or head to our website, hailtrace.com, for more information on what our meteorologists do here at HailTrace. There's more meteorologists than just Martin and myself. We've got over 15 Mets here at HailTrace. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you back here, same time, same place.